Hello and welcome to another episode of World Class Real Estate. My name is Sam Hunter, and today's guest has been in real estate for more than 20 years, and he has well and truly earned his reputation as an expert in his local market. I can personally attest to his strong negotiation skills, professionalism, and excellent communication abilities that do actually set him apart from the competition, making him the go-to agent for a lot of buyers and a lot of sellers. He also, again from personal experience, has to be a pretty good bloke. Jacob Secco, welcome to World Class Real Estate.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Jacob, what does world class real estate look like to you?
World-class real estate is interesting. I mentioned that question, and I sort of thought about a couple of things because I don't know, everyone might have the same answer, everyone might be very different, not sure. But mate, I would say the number one to me, and this would, I guess can be different interpretations, but mate, a great communicator for me is who you'll find be a good real estate agent. And then someone, I suppose the second part you'd need is, someone that isn't willing to waver on their own integrity and the values that they have. But I really think communication and being strong about who you are and what you do to get a deal done, I suppose, would be making the world's best real estate agents for sure.
All right. Thank you. Let's go a little bit deeper on communication.
Cool.
So
All right.
you're sitting in a listing presentation. You're the third agent in. Everyone said they're good communicators. How do you explain, how do you communicate that you're a good communicator?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's I guess probably taught from an older school of teeing up some common ground with someone, perhaps away from real estate. You'd hope that you'd done that already. I mean, it's not about I'm a great communicator because I can answer my phone after 8 p.m. right, and or I'll text you back over breakfast or anything like that. It's truly your role as a real estate agent is amongst a host of small jobs. You are representing the market, whether it's to a seller or to a buyer. You're representing the market, and you're not expecting their education level to be at someone who does it every day, right? But there can't be a sort of an impatience or a condescending tone there. You need to really bring them up to speed on this very serious decision, and have them see that what is out there in the marketplace, as much as it changes, it is very real today. I feel like a communicator is someone that not just helps someone understand that quickly, but there's a lot of trust there, and they're more than confident in their decision. I guess if I'm sitting across from Mr. and Mrs. Owner, and there's been three agents in, how are you a good communicator? Well, I really, that's when I think you'd need to hope that your results and the referral and the reason you're there has there are other people that have gone, hey, use these guys, they're fantastic, I found them to be great. If it is the first time that you're meeting these owners, I mean, I've referred to it before as speed dating. Sometimes these appraisals, they go, oh, we're getting 5 agents in, and they give every one of them an hour. Very hard to come across as the number one communicator at that appointment. And in fact, I would say someone that sat there and insisted that they were the number one of something the entire time could be a pink flag. It's more about understanding who these people are, what they do for jobs, and trying to get on their level, I guess, so that should you get the job, you've got a couple of months together. Even if it's a sort of a rather speedy sale in a strong market, it's a relationship of that's going to go on for a long time from here in, not just the sale process, but even moving forward in the years to come. So it's you'll certainly have more than enough opportunity to show your communication skills. But I suppose that can be a tricky one to insist to someone perhaps that you're really good at it in a short period of time.
I think actually my view on communication is really good communicators get people feeling comfortable really quickly. And your speed dating analogies are fantastic, right? Because they allow people to understand what we see as simple but is complex to them on a level.
And we might hear a few of them. We might hear a few of them in this
The
call.
more analogies, the better, right? But by saying like, "Oh, you've seen five agents, geez, it must feel like speed dating."
Yeah,
What a disarming comment. Where
yeah,
realistically, no other agents would have said that. They would have gone in and said,
no,
"One, and here's why."
yeah. When that popped into my head for the first time, I forget, but I said it, and it got a laugh. And mate, I get it out a bit, but it's. I suppose those analogies, and they can get a little. My analogies can get a little strange, but it's exactly that. It's trying to help someone understand because there's a lot of moving parts, but we just don't want to take for granted that we know it. So if you sort of just hope that someone's up to speed with your real estate knowledge, you're going to get impatient, and they can't be expected. That's why they've got you over. That's why they want to talk to you about it. And so I always sort of, I think analogies are, even though, like I said, mine get a little bit strange, a little bit abstract, but mate, they've really helped people, especially relate to their own job. I like to find out what people do for a job,
Mm.
or at least what industry they're in, so that you can use certain terms to help them know whether they're, what we're talking about is trivial stuff, or whether we're, down to the serious stuff.
You made me think. So yesterday we actually were in a best of finals situation yesterday, and we missed out. We were number two. And yeah, our client said to us, they were like, "Why does it feel like we're never going to find a house?" And we've been working with them for 3 weeks. It's sort of halfway through where we think is an expected time to sort of find the right thing for somebody. And I said to them, husband and wife, and I said to them, "You guys ever been dumped and never think you're going to find anybody?"
Mm.
And they're like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I was like, "Just get married." And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, so analogies and comfort, right? It's just like, this is normal. You've just had a
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster. And unfortunately, we didn't have the outcome that we all wanted. But we walked away
No.
at a price that we would be happy for someone else to pay. And they paid 49 grand more than us. So we're okay with that. But that analogy allowed them to understand that their feelings are normal. And again, like, hopefully sleep a little bit easier than just thinking, shit, we're never going to find a house, which is quite cool. Um,
Spot on.
you mentioned you got a laugh.
Oh
How
yeah.
so? I've got thoughts on humor as a rapport building and as a trust building process, right? For me, it's really
Yeah.
important. I think real estate is serious stuff, right? It may be serious business for us, but it is serious life for buyers and sellers and even tenants and landlords. How do you
Mm.
use humor to help?
Yeah, that's it's you're right. It is a very serious thing, and you don't want to. I try not to go too overboard with the laugh. Probably my personality type is to try and make people laugh. But I guess it is to take away from that is a lot of things going on is in the middle of a negotiation. You are talking about houses, and people are missing out, and different things like that. Um, I think I try to be, if someone does need a little bit of the edge taken off, and they are nervous and things like that, just to remind them that, hey, especially sometimes at open houses and different things like that, when people can be really tense, either open houses, or just going into different sort of things where people need to sometimes not feel like everything's just so serious all the time, because if they can loosen up a little bit, and and feel like, hey, it's not as as drastic as we think, we can just sort of relax and let our hair down here a little bit and make a bit of a joke. It actually helps people think a bit clearer and make a
Mm.
better decision. Whereas if you are very tense and the pressure's on you, and you turn up, the real estate agent, they were very serious, right? And and I was lining up, and I didn't want to, hand my mobile number over wrong, and pressure's on and stuff. You're not really taking in the whole sort of inspection itself and walking in and having a good feeling. Like it's like, did I like that house, or was I just sort of was the whole thing all a bit serious? So I guess I grew up in a real estate family, and big real estate offices. So I've met a lot of characters, a lot of different sales styles. Um, and admittedly, a lot of them, me growing up, going to school and stuff, it was, the '90s, and so a lot of the agents that worked for my family and stuff, they were your classic '90s real estate agents. You know what I mean? Everyone was a bit of a character, but you know,
It's a very
I've seen
polite way of
different
saying it.
styles, and I've seen the serious style, right?
Yeah.
And I can see how it works. It's just simply, I'd be putting a mask on if I pretended to do it. You know what I mean? Like I've
Mm.
seen charts and the data and this and that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is how many days we're going to take to sell, and this is the thing, and I've done the formula and I've broke it down. And some people have a lot of security in that. They like it. They go, okay, well, they might have a similar job themselves, or they think, well, if this person was applying for a job at my work, I could hire them with no repercussion because all the data's there, And so, but I would be pretending to be someone that I'm not, whereas really, I think just letting people know that, you've got a handle on things. I think if you're comfortable enough to give the information that they need, and make jokes when they're appropriate, it is also a sign of, that you're not winging it, and you're not, you are in control, and you don't mind what questions you get, because you actually do know the answers, rather than sort of having to go off script and freaking out.
I agree. I think people find the humor in the truth of the market, and real estate sucks, right? And so if you can find humor, it's why we use memes in our buyer's agency business.
Yeah,
it connects with people, because they're
top
like,
shelf.
I hate you. That is how I feel at the end of an auction. But it cuts through, because everybody can connect, unfortunately, on a negative emotional level. But if you can smile about it, you can say, actually, here's how we navigate through those challenges rather than avoid them. Like, we charge the storm rather than avoid it, and have those courageous conversations earlier in the process, help them buy sooner. We're more mediators than we are buyer's agents most of the time.
And look, that's what you're doing. Again, it comes back, like you said, you're mediators. It comes back to communication. You're representing the market to people. You know what I mean? It's like, that's talk about yesterday's, mate. Don't want to bring up, don't want to bring up the old the fresh wounds, but 49,000 away. It's like you can almost kind of let them see the humor in it, of going like, this is the market, but it's like, mate, all the best to these guys. Like, what are they doing? Because it's truly at a number that they didn't see. Whereas, I guess if you were $2,000 away, it's a much harder pill to swallow.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I just think, to me, that's the biggest thing, is you are presenting the market, you're mediating, you're doing a lot of different jobs, helping people through the process. Obviously, you'd love the process to just end this afternoon. Perfect one lands in your lap, get it done, owner's happy, but it's like understanding that it's not going to be that quick. Helping people through the time involved, knowing that, like any marketplace and those sort of things, there isn't a set 11 days. Like, all we got to do is just, it takes 11 days, you wait it out, day 11, it gets done. It's sort of keeping the spirits up, understanding that it's like, yes, we're aiming for a great deal with as soon as possible. It's like, but it's just not, that's the one thing that we haven't learned how to completely control. We are at the mercy of what comes on the market, and our options as they sort of play out.
Agreed. You mentioned before you grew up in a real estate family. So you've been doing this 20 years, and then there's a family unit that's been doing it longer, right?
Yeah. So
you're not that old. So
no.
How'd you start?
Started when I was 8.
What? I got 3 questions all in one, just to confuse you. How'd you start? What's the biggest lesson that you learnt along the way, and what hasn't changed?
What hasn't changed? Okay. How'd I start? Well, mate, I had big hopes for myself, right? And instead wound up in real estate. It was a case of, I suppose, when I was going to school, mum and dad owned a real estate office, very successful one, but it was just, anyone that ever asked me if I was going to get in real estate, I finished school in 2002, and 20 years ago. It wasn't like it was today, where you had people trying to get out of school or in their early 20s aspiring to be into real estate. You know what I mean? Real estate was an older person's occupation still then, because it was just hard to get a listing in your 20s, right? And it was a fallback. It was still a fallback thing, but we were from a family of 5, so I've got 2 brothers and mum and dad. So mum and dad owned 3 offices, and so they're always looking for staff, I guess. And my older brother has no interest in real estate whatsoever, so he went on a completely different path in the army. And I got a twin brother, so we both finished identical twin, and we both finished at the same time. And it was like almost two paths crossing. I had all these different things I was going to do, and he had nothing lined up. And then mum and dad said, hey, hop on the front desk. Right, we had two officers that both need a front person on the front desk. Hop on the front desk, give it a year, see how it goes. And I thought, oh well, I'll have more money than my friends if I can get a full-time job. And mate, that's how they wrote me in. So
Geez,
that was the
your
start.
clients must have thought you were superhuman going from office to office if they visited both in one day.
Absolutely. Anyone that knows Brisbane and knows Coorparoo and Holland Park, they would, and back then you used to get the keys for rental properties, right? So you
Yeah.
used to leave your $50 and you'd pick up the key, and that was just like par for the course. Hand out keys, of course, like whatever. And so you have no more than four keys. Like you just be handing piles of keys to four different properties to people for a 50, right? And anyway, so they'd get in the car, and like what would happen is they would come to the Coorparoo office. There'd be like the Holland Park was the property management office, right? The Coorparoo, I was with all the sales guys. I sort of have one or two available for them, but the rest are down at Holland Park. They would leave that office, go out to the street, get in their car, drive straight to Holland Park, walk in,
You'd be
and go,
there.
oh, yeah, oh, hey, so I will grab, I'll just get those two keys. And Corey would look at them like he already knew what they'd thought. And he's like, mate, I didn't beat you here. That's my brother. And they're like, ah, classic. Of course it is. All right, no, I'll grab those keys, mate. And he had to explain to everyone that, like, the look, I've grown up knowing the look, right?
Yeah.
And the look is, like, we know each other, you and I. And I can only give the look back of, I'm sorry, we've never met. You think we have, but I look like someone else. So yeah, so we both got into it, which was handy to get into with someone else. He went down the property management path. We did a fair internship of 4 years on the desk, running the office before we were allowed any open house and stuff like that. So that was probably it was a good thing,
Yeah, what you
but
need.
it was taking a lot in, learning from a lot of real estate agents, just not earning a lot of money. But it was good to sort of learn the different ways, and that's what I like to think, that I learned real estate not just from the family unit, but we had 16 agents at the time. I got a fair variety of what to do and what not to do, and different styles and things like that. So I know that was the first part of the question. Second part was
What have you
what was the
learned?
second part?
And then what hasn't changed?
Hey,
What's something that you learned? You're like, geez, I'm glad I've learned that, or I've taken that on board. And then, what hasn't changed from that first day on reception to the
yeah.
second day?
I mean, I learned very quickly, that, and I guess this is a lot of different, like I said, the characters that I grew up with, but also advice from mum and dad, and that is, it's sales, so you'll have to be yourself, right? And if being yourself doesn't work out, right, it may not be for you.
Mm.
It's kind of that analogy, and whatever that finding that yourself is, but you know, if if to be good at sales, you're pretending to be someone completely that you're not, you may have a good year or two, but you will get tired and burn out a lot sooner than your competitors, because it is too much effort to get up in the morning to pretend to be someone that you're not. If you're not an energetic outgoing person, then going into people's houses and being that person, you're putting in twice as much work as anyone else.
100%.
And so I've met agents who, they aren't outgoing and they aren't extroverted, so they've found niches themselves of how to have a different clientele, and again, being that sort of that data based person, and that about the facts and things, making that work for yourself so that you can be yourself, whatever that happens to be, whatever that personality is for yourself. I suppose that's what I like to do, is at least that's what I like to aim to do, is be genuine and be who I am, so that if someone picks up the phone to me in 5 years time, I can just kick off where we last spoke about real estate, or when I sold their house, or whatever it happens to be. It's not sort of trying to remember
Mm.
what version of me they got. And so that to me was just, be yourself. I mean, that's very cliche, but
Works.
that's yeah, it has to work. It just, for real estate, it has to work. And that's probably why a lot of people go, there's a lot of dickheads in real estate. And it's like, mate, they're just being themselves, mate. It's just who they are. Hey, don't get up from that. They're just a wanker. So,
Yeah.
it can be a bit like that.
Plenty of wankers in every industry, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I want to come and ask you a couple of practical questions now because we like to sort of
Okay.
talk shop a little bit
Yep.
more than the esoterical kind of stuff. So, regardless of where you are in the world, listings are tight. So stock
Mm.
levels are actually really comparable through. So we got people who listen to this in America, New Zealand, Singapore,
Yep.
mostly in the UK, and a few in Australia as well. And listings are typically that sort of 30% of where you would see them having been over a 10-year average.
Usually. That's
Yeah.
right.
So tight prices are up. It is an absolute shit fight for the good stuff. We were talking the other day.
Mm.
There's, one banger every quarter, and then there's a lot of average stuff that may or may not transact in that period of time. So when stock's tight and you've got everything on your books under offer already, rearing towards settlement, what is your go-to for finding that next client? What can you share with the listeners?
Yeah. The absolute go-to. And I suppose, I've talked about stock levels a lot with people because we are from an area that genuinely, like for the last 20 years, has had low stock,
Mm.
right? But it doesn't matter what levels you're used to. If it gets tighter, it's tighter. You know what I mean? And so I guess we're used to it always being tight, but there was a certain consistency there. And now that like you said, it's 30% across the globe. Right? If you're already tight, you're feeling it. But if you were used to having 10 listings at a time, then being 30% tighter isn't a good feeling either.
Mm.
Right. So, shortage is certainly a shortage. Look, my go-to when, I think there's always prospecting work there, right? As much as you go, I really haven't, I can't sort of flog that one, or I can't do this. It's like you do know it's there. One of my go-tos, especially if listings are tight, right? Prices are up, and so it means your results are good, right? And you don't want to assume that everyone knows, like everyone that you've sold similar real estate to over the last 10 years or whatever it happens to be, even if you've been around for 2 years or 3 years, right? You don't want to assume that it's like everyone knows that open house was insane and you had 20 offers, right? People will hear from different people at barbecues and stuff that it's crazy, right? But they might like to hear it from you.
Mm.
So, selling something in an area and having it under contract, like, if you got three things under contract and you're like, oh, awesome. Okay, well, I really need to go to. It's like, it's not about asking people, can I sell your house? Right. It's in my mind, because that is just how many yeses are you seriously going to get? You just said yourself stock was tight, right? It's like it's tight for a reason. No one's selling. So, you can just stop asking. So I would think it's more important to ring people and, rather than say, mate, can I sell your house? Tell them how good it was, how good that off, like how good the price was, how busy the open house was, how they broke your record, and mate, that's all you're filling them in with was how the market is, right? It's that activity that you feel like it's like, oh well, I didn't do much this afternoon. It's like, well, if your option was ring 15 local owners that that you sold to in the last 3 years and let them know about, Brown Street that you just sold, right? You just, got 25 offers on Brown Street and sold it for 150 more, right? Because one of your competitors is going to call them and tell them about maybe your sale at Brown Street, but they'll be telling them about, they'll be telling them about Red Street, right? And going, look what I did. They want to hear from you and they want to hear that you're doing well, right? You don't have to end the conversation with, have you ever thought about
Yeah.
what
Do you
yours
want a
might be
free
worth or
market
something like that?
appraisal? Yeah.
Yeah, they already know market appraisals are free, right? Everyone knows they're free. Everyone knows they're no obligation, right? It doesn't need to be why you're
Mm.
calling. You'll call result. You might have seen this online. I wanted to call with it anyway. I think this is a huge sale for you guys in your area, mate. Have they stopped partying in the street yet? Right? I saw the rage going on till 3 a.m. Down at Brown Street after you all found out how many offers there were. Making a bit of light of it, making a joke of it, but really they've made a serious investment through you. Let's say they bought off you 5 years ago, right? They made a serious investment at the time, and at the time they probably felt like they paid too much,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, which a lot of buyers do because you've got to come first, right? Like the people that, I mean,
Okay.
again, I'm sorry, I just keep slamming you about
Also,
this one. But, they paid 49 grand more than second place, right? So they feel like they've paid a lot. Well, if they got a call in 3 or 4 years' time with a great result around the corner from the agent that sold it to them, it is just like it's a bit of good news because the thought is this person knows my house well. right? They know their house, they bought it, right? Then they're looking up online. They're like, oh, I didn't really go through Brown Street. When your competitor calls them and goes, I got one at Red Street, I got multiple offers and rah, rah, rah. It's not that they go, well, I'm in love with you now, right? Like I don't even remember who I talked to, but it's just a small little thing that they called and you didn't, whereas that activity is their fun phone calls, right?
Mm.
You can feel like you kind of wasted a bit of an afternoon and didn't get much done because it's kind of a bit of a fun prospecting activity is calling your old clients and stuff like that. But even if they got the missed call, finding out a nice text to send them, hey, and just let them know it's just about that one. It's not about your place. It's not about anything like that. It's just, this is a great sale. Some of the calls will go for a long time. Some of them will be short. People are busy or they'll just send a text. I think that for me is a go-to because obviously it's a good activity to have, right? And they don't have to be people that you've sold for before. Like, that list might not be that long for some people, but it's people who have had you over for an appraisal, have met you before, basically anyone but those that are in the market for it and don't want to hear it from you that it's really, really hard to buy
All
something
the
at the
people that
moment.
are already in one of these, right? That's the thing.
It's just, it's like, just those activities because it's amazingly it's not their place that you list or anything like that. I know it's always like, it's always sort of feels like it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's not on the periodic scale, but it's like it's they just go to a barbecue in 2 weeks' time and you're just a slightly more front of mind than you were going to be. This could be someone that you've sold for a couple of times. They're just a little bit more in tune
Mm.
because they have the data. They didn't get it online. Their agent called it with them, and they're using terms like that. My agent told me about one that sold 2 weeks because someone will try and one up them and be like, I heard across the road from me sold for 1.3. And it's just like, these guys know it's 1.313,
Mm.
right? And it was 8 days on the market and it was 19 offers. And they'll just it's funny that they're bringing that to the conversation. All of a sudden, it's because they knew. You never know where it's going to come from. You need people talking about you, and so hiding at the office, complaining about low stock levels is a terrible way to be talked about. No one will be talking about you, and so you can't change the stock levels, right? But you can
Mm.
change how many of them go your way and how many doors you go in because as much as you see that there's poor stock levels, if you hop on the sold section of realestate.com, there's plenty of stuff getting sold. I don't go near it because I don't like to do that to myself and have a look. I mean, talking about analogies, that's like looking for a date in the, obituary section of a newspaper, right? They're gone, these ones, so you don't look on realestate.com and talk about stock levels, but, you know, it's finding an activity that you can do even when you don't want to do one, and sometimes prospecting can be one of those things where you look at some activities and you're like, well, I'll only do that one when I get a nice new listing, and that'll be a much better phone call because I'll be, I can invite them to my VIP viewing. And it's just like, champ, when you get a new listing, you're going to be run off your feet because if you're doing it correctly, you can have 1,000 people ringing you. And the
Yep.
last thing you'll be doing is free phone calls to those in the area and doing VIP showings like you should be. But, that's the trap of getting a few listings in a market like this is that phone doesn't stop ringing,
Yep.
and the option of just going, I'm not going to answer it because this is just another buyer. It's like that's not one of your options, right?
Mm.
Like you're picking that phone up all the time, and so it's kind of like, well, it's when they're under contract and the dust settles a little bit, rather than looking for your next listing. It's like looking for people to talk to about real estate.
100%. The point that you make about calling your past buyers, who invariably, there isn't a buyer that's ever bought a house that wouldn't have loved to have paid less, right? And there isn't
Yeah.
a seller that's ever sold a house that would have loved to have sold for more. To call those buyers at any period of time and tell them that a property sold for more than they paid, we do it,
Mm.
right? So if there's a property that sells for a price more than we paid and it's a week later, after our guys have either agreed a contract or moved in, doesn't matter.
Mm.
We tell them, hey,
Yeah.
this one is 400 meters from your house, same number of bedrooms, sold for 40,000 more, so 150 grand more, right? There
Yeah.
hasn't been many where there's been less.
No.
And it
No.
is
And that.
just, it's, yes, it's being the conduit of information, and the vast majority of our business comes from barbecues and recommendations
Yeah.
and referrals. And I'm sure it does yours and other good real estate agents as well. But you cannot earn the right and you cannot hope to be top of mind unless you are that conduit of information. You said before, right? They can get this data, but they should hear it from you.
Yeah,
And that is
yeah,
the name of this episode, right?
yeah.
Because
But
they should.
that they should absolutely they should hear it from you. Like, that's to me there's more information available online than ever before, right? Like, and so more old school real estate agents could use as an excuse and go, well, I used to have a reason to call them and now I don't. And it's just like that.
Even
That's
more so.
Yeah, that's absolutely, what are they going to tell you on that phone call? Oh, I know that one. Yeah, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. Well, that's when I would go, well, mate, let me one I don't, tell me one I don't know. Right? Like, it's like, how good is this phone call? Because now it's like, well, I've found someone here that is studying the hell out of real estate results. It's like, there's no bad way to have that phone call. If they
That
turn
person
around and
is
they
in
know,
real estate mode or knows people
yeah,
they are valuable to you
that,
in every sense of
that's
the
it. They've
word.
just shown you their hand. They've just shown you their hand. They just go, mate, I saw that one. I saw that one. Yeah, we went and saw that one. Yeah, I saw that. You hear what happened to that auction? I'm like, mate, you tell me, champ. Like, you're the one that's on fire, right? And so that's there's no bad activities when you do that. The only bad activities is just sitting there hiding under the bed sheets, hoping that it's like, when's the shortage going to end? It's like, well, if you try and ride the shortage out, right? When it ends and listings are coming from everywhere, you'll be on the sidelines, and those that picked up the phone during the shortage will be flying, and then you won't catch them. You're better off. You're better off making ground now that everyone's going slower than usual. This is the best time to make ground because, mate, if everyone hits the turbo boosters and we have one of those years, where prices are good, demand's good, but turnover's at a record high and everyone's filling their boots, it's like you'll be on the sidelines. You won't be, you won't have all these people randomly call you out of nowhere. That's when you'll start driving past houses you sold and see someone else's sign, and that
The
will
pits.
make you hit a
That
parked
is the
car.
pits. I think
Yeah.
in this market, not everyone has to miss their goals just because there's less properties for sale, right? The shit
Mm.
agents will. It's as simple as that.
Mm.
But there's still
Yeah.
room for more than enough people to hit the goals they want to hit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they're lower than traditionally, but they don't have to be low for you as long as you're,
Yeah.
willing to do the activities that sounds like you've been doing for 20 years.
Yeah. 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 Oh, mate, I wish I'd say I was better at them, but mate, that's I think it's been prospecting was probably one of the toughest things to get me to finally get any sort of structure around. And that's just kind of the different way that we had the office set up, and working with the parents running the office. There was always agents to look after, and rah rah rah. And the old man was an old gun, so he'd just sort of have listings fall out of the sky. And I'd never, I'd spent half of my career not even knowing where they came from and stuff. And so it was really only when you truly, a little over 5 years ago, start your own sales team and have it where it's like, it will be your activity now that delivers your listings. That gets you in the mode to truly do it. They're prospecting, their jobs that everyone knows. So everyone could list them. Someone been in real estate for a month, they're all just like, they know the jobs. Boom, 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 boom. Some are their favorite, and that they go, oh, that one's my favorite. It's like, that means that's where your last listing come from. That's why that's your favorite one, right? It's like, oh, door knocking's awesome. It's like, door knocking's awesome because you just listed something from door knocking, right? Like, you only know which one works for you when you do them for a long time, you do them consistently.
I agree with that. And actually, we were saying before that the goal of this show is to be boringly consistent. And I think that this episode has reinforced consistently or consistency in a non-boring way. I also said to you before we started that if we get the wrap up from the Zoom timer, we would have definitely have waffled, but I don't feel like we have. And we've gone for
I don't know.
39
Yeah,
minutes.
no, look,
And I think,
yeah, no,
yeah,
it
from my side
certainly
and from
stuff.
everybody
Oh,
listening,
sorry, you go.
there you go, mate.
I was just going to say, like, I mean, for me, it is something I could talk about for a long time. Because there are a lot of moving pieces and stuff, and that actually, like you said, you've got viewers in different parts of the world. That's always been something that's interested me. In the group that I'm with, with Remax, obviously, it's around the world, and I go to different conventions, talking to people about different markets. It's amazing. You have things that couldn't be more different, legislation that couldn't be more different, how they handle it, and then you just have things that are just purely identical and can
100%.
never change. Yeah,
Agreed.
and
And I think
yeah,
that's the beauty of doing this and talking to people from all marks of real estate is that the basics are the same no matter where you operate. And I think from my side and from everybody listening, it's been a thoroughly valuable and enjoyable conversation. And I reckon we'll probably get a few votes to get you back. So Jacob, thank you so much.
Hey, mate, no worries, Sam. Thanks for having me on. It's awesome. Cheers, guys.